So it all comes down to the final day of action here at the Women's Series in 2022. Lisa Ashton is through to both the Grand Slam and the World Championship.
Fallon to throw for the bullseye first.
Through to the Grand Slam, but all eyes are on that second World Championship spot at the Alexandra Palace. Just £250 separate second place Sherrock and Bo Greaves, the woman who's won the last 6 Women's Series events. First up on the streaming board, we have Fallon Sherrock against Italian 16-year-old, an exciting future prospect, Aurora Fochessato, who made the last 16 of event 18 yesterday, where she lost to Lorraine Winstanley. A really exciting start to this morning's session. Chris Murphy alongside me. Really looking forward to this one, Murph.
Yeah, absolutely. And Aurora has said that, you know, she wants to follow in Fallon's footsteps. She's a great hero of hers, and what Fallon did, not just for women's darts, but for darts in general, when she won those games at the Alexandra Palace, really did make an impact around the world. And maybe Aurora Fochessato is one of the first sort of visible products we've got of the Fallon factor. She's actually the youngest player in the field for this tournament. Just a side note, 51 years younger than the oldest player in the tournament. Sport for all.
It is indeed, and we've seen on Fochessato's social media pages when she's had pictures with Fallon Sherrock, she's called her darting idol. She's not got off to a bad start here.
Well, you mentioned that run to the last 16 when she lost to Lorraine Winstanley. She actually missed 5 match darts in that game. So it could have been a quarter-final berth for Aurora. And, you know, Bo Greaves, who incidentally is the second youngest player in the field,
60.
Is winning these titles for fun, but who knows what Aurora could be doing in a couple of years' time.
Yeah, and I know in Italy there are very high hopes indeed for Aurora.
58.
And many people thinking she could be the real breakthrough in Italian darts. So I wouldn't say there's significant pressure on her, but there are certainly high hopes for what she can achieve in this game. And she's certainly shown it there, a 180. I was wondering actually whether there'd be a few nerves playing against someone who she admires.
Well, she might get a little lesson.
66.
The 180 not answered with the finish, and Fochessato does get the opportunity to break Fallon Sherrock in the very first leg of this match. She's playing very solid darts so far. Double top.
60.
Just caught the darts that were in the way. It's always a problem. Fallon has an open target and she finds it for 1-0.
Yeah, we've seen glimpses of Aurora on the streaming board previously, but I have to say there's a noticeable improvement in her game from the last time we saw her on a streaming board, and of course she follows that up straying into the 5s and 1s. Thanks very much for that, Aurora.
Yeah, and it was so straight, wasn't it? So neat and tidy, that first leg. Really solid stuff. There's a lot to admire about the throw, and you're right what you say. She is a high hope for Italian darts, more so than any male player. If you were asked about how many Italian darts players do you know, I think most sort of even learned darts fans, without the real boffins like yourself, Abby, would come up with Aurora before anybody else.
100.
Most definitely. You can see she's come through a product of Winmau as well. She's got a lot of backing, hasn't she, at the moment? Many people backing her to do things. And I'm really impressed with the way she started, because when we've seen her previously, she's not had that solid, as you mentioned, her action is really good, but she's remaining a lot straighter than we've seen in previous visits, and maybe this is a sign that she's getting used to this exposure now. She's getting used to playing in front of the cameras.
I mean, the action is not that dissimilar to Fallon, and the rhythm is not that dissimilar to Fallon. So I'm just wondering if she's almost literally modelled her game on Fallon Sherrock.
60.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised at all if that is the case. Maybe we can catch up with her in between matches just to have a little word on that. I believe you spoke to her, didn't you, this morning, very briefly? She seems like a very grounded young talent.
Yeah, she was trying to just prepare for a match downstairs getting a bottle of water or whatever. I was just in the way getting my bacon and sausage sandwich.
Like the real athlete that you are.
But yeah, just a very polite, nice person. And she seemed all right as well.
39.
Don't worry, I don't think anyone was making that mistake.
17 then. Tops again. She hit it to win the last leg. She hits it to win this one, and this one really not competitive. And wonder if, when you play a player like Fallon Sherrock, Lisa Ashton, Bo Greaves, et al. In these tournaments, and you get a chance to break them in the first leg in a race to 4, whether you already think that was my chance.
Yeah, and I think there's more of a hangover going into the following legs then, isn't there? It's a lot harder to reset yourself when you do have those opportunities early on. But a word on Fallon Sherrock then, a really solid start from her. Of course, all the pressure, I've been speaking to a few players this morning, and the pressure is very much on her as opposed to Bo Greaves in today's action. Of course, Fallon is currently in that second spot, but we know how she deals with pressure, don't we? That's normally when we see the best from her, and it's a really, really strong start from her so far this morning. It
is, and you know, she's still £250 ahead of Bo Greaves, so it's Bo that's got work to do, not Fallon. She's obviously needs to just keep playing her best, get as far as she can in tournaments, but say if she gets to the final of the first event, then that's an £850 gap minus whatever Bo Greaves achieves. So
31.
It's not just as simple as Bo outperforming Fallon, because the money in these events, £250, is a significant amount. I do think, though, the start of the weekend, the only real incredible story would have been Bo Greaves getting that second place. I actually now think, based on what we've seen yesterday and in the previous 4 tournaments, that Fallon fending her off today would be a decent story in its own right.
Most certainly. Double 16 then.
73.
Unable to pin that, but Aurora quite a way back in this leg. Yeah, and the reason I mention that is because I think the different mindsets that the two players have. Fallon Sherrock is someone who is maybe more susceptible to feeling that pressure than Bo Greaves is, but double 8, and she pins that one. Pressure, what pressure? We said that a number of times during Bo's games yesterday, and Fallon's dealing with it very well so far this morning.
Yeah, Lisa Ashton is 3-0 up in her first match. Now she is in the same half of as the draw as Fallon Sherrock on board 7. This is a match from board 1, so they couldn't meet until the semi-finals of the tournament, which is exactly where they met in the second event yesterday. And Lisa Ashton won that match. Bo Greaves is on board 12, which is the other half of the draw, so she couldn't meet Fallon Sherrock until the final. What a story that would be.
Yeah, and I think I spoke to Lorraine Winstanley this morning, and she made a very interesting point that we touched upon yesterday about, yes, what Bo is achieving is remarkable, it's incredible, but we just haven't seen yet, if she were to lose a game, how she responds to that sort of setback.
That's true, and that was my problem. I lost a game once and never won again. I mean, it was the first game I'd ever played in darts.
Oh, I thought you might have been talking about that error you made last night on the pool table. Had a bit of a Sean Murphy moment, didn't you?
We'll stick to darts today.
Just so you're aware, Murph, with a black over the pocket, managed to go in off. Story of your life.
97.
Almost too good, tried to pot too many balls. Good leg from Fochessato, this one.
I will get you back at some point, I'm just biding my time.
I can only make these comments whilst you've not seen me on a pool table.
Well, it is a good leg from Aurora, but Fallon Sherrock could win the leg and indeed the match by taking out 127. Treble 19 would leave the bullseye. Not to be, so an opportunity. She's had one dart double so far in the game. She had it at top, she missed it. She'll get 2 to stay in the game at double 16.
She just comes inside yet again. Well, she's carved out a couple of opportunities in this one, hasn't she? But that's largely been the story. And Fallon Sherrock looking for top. She pins it for the third time in this match to complete a 4-0 victory over Aurora Fochessato and progress into the last 64. We'll be back with more action very shortly.